Hi, this is the first video of 3 videos about Dragon Age 2. There's going to be a lot of spoilers, like a lot, and also some swearing. So, warning, oh no, swearing and spoilers, oh no. If you want an example of a game that was clearly made with an impossible time crunch, look no further than Dragon Age 2. I think most people would agree that an epic fantasy game is not one that you want to put time restraints on, especially since Dragon Age Origins was such a sprawling and dense and choice-heavy RPG. People expected the same out of the next game, and what they got was the beginning of a huge shift in BioWare games. They got streamlining, and I'm bringing this up in the first act because it's clear the moment you have your first conversation. There's blue choice for nice, there's purple choice for joking around, and of course there's red choice for girl, I'm so serious business. This might look familiar to Mass Effect fans because this is exactly the same kind of dialogue choice wheel that Commander Shepard uses. It's even the same kind of morality scale if you squint and turn your head to the side just a bit. There's just one new feature, which is, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the first version of the sarcastic button that we see in Fallout 4. Obviously, these games were made by different companies, but I think it's totally possible Bethesda was like, we don't just want good and bad options, we want the player to feel like they could be a total sarcastic asshole. And while the sarcastic button didn't always work in Fallout 4, it's actually one of the reasons why people like Dragon Age 2. When you push that purple button, Hawk is usually pretty funny. I found myself chuckling at her little quips and sarcastic-ass attitude, even in the most dire situation. In fact, that usually made it more funny. Not only that, but the game kind of encourages you to play this way, especially when you have companions like the wisecracking Varric or the dirty jokes-loving Isabella. They love it when you say something silly, and this gives you an artificial audience, so it makes it feel like Hawk's jokes are actually landing. And this is way better than having an NPC just stare blankly at you like, why are you making a joke? Our town is on fire. Please stop. Hawk is the star of the show here. And it's kind of obvious they were trying to make a mini Shepard, and I think that was the direction BioWare wanted to take all of their games before Dragon Age 2 got totally panned by fans and critics. I think this idea makes sense, and even though I don't think it's perfect for a role-playing game, it allows the writers to tell a hero's story. And you can see that storytelling is really a huge theme in this game. The game opens with Varric, a very cocky, smartass dwarf author, being interrogated by a seeker, who we don't know yet, but she seems very no-nonsense, and also maybe she secretly likes romance novels. Guys, I'm just putting that out there. The Seeker demands to know the story of the champion, and at this point we're like, oh wait, is that me? I'm the champion? Oh, that's so nice. Varric agrees to tell a story, and any lover of RPG games can tell you something is afoot here. For starters, there's no face customization, and that's like every gamer's favorite part. And suddenly we've got a lot of skills, like a whole lot of them that we never picked. And so, while we know something is clearly off about the tale Varric is weaving, this is kind of a cool way to show off the skills you can have later. If the combat in this game was a little bit better than it was, this would be a total slam dunk. But Dragon Age combat is like a bad mix between strategic Origins and like arcadey Inquisition. So, you tear-apart some dudes, and just as you come to the realization this might all be bullshit, the record scratches, and the Seeker stops the story. Apparently she can smell bullshit too. So, through some more scary lady yelling, she gets Varric to tell us the story, and we're off! It's time for the story of the champion! The champ is here! Time is up, time is now, can't see me, time is now. Oh, I'm sorry. I love wrestling and John Cena, I apologize. At this point, it's implied we get the real story because we finally get to mess around with the character creation page. Of course, I think for the rest of the game, it's important to think of it as a story. Even if it's closer to the real thing, the entire game is being told by Varric. There are a couple hints that this is Varric's story of the champion. Like, for example, when Varric's brother locks him in a room, you get to see that it's because he's been infected with this red lyrium, and the characters of the game don't know. So you as a player know, but the characters don't know. And I think that's kind of an interesting choice. And I think that might be alluding to this is Varric telling a story, not so much you living the story. So anyway, Hawk is the daughter of this rich gal from Kirkwall who ran off with an apostate mage, and they went to go make babies in Ferelden. But, joke's on them because Ferelden is on fucking fire because someone unleashed Darkspawn all over Lothering. So that means Dragon Age 2 starts when Dragon Age 1 is already going. And that's actually kind of interesting. And it's cool to see the first game get the ball rolling to directly impact the second game. You end up wandering poop countryside with your family when, oh no, your sibling you barely know is dead now. Oh no. This is the first big stumble of the game. Look, I know this works as an origin story for superheroes, and that's great, but me as a player, it's really hard to care about losing my sister or brother that I don't know anything about yet at all. Also, there's a hint to mommy issues. When you try to comfort your mom after your sibling dies, she just snaps at you. This shit happens again and again with your mom, and it feels so weird. Especially since the tension between your mom and yourself is never really explored. It's just there, waiting to get worse. At this point, a hot grandma shows up. And guys, I have no explanation as to why Flemeth looks like this as opposed to the first game, which is more like this. I'm not complaining because she looks great. I mean, look at her. But is it because they can't have ugly people in this game? Does she need to be hot to show us how super powerful witch lady she is? Hey, I can turn into a dragon, but also check out these boobs. I have no understanding why. Anyway, this is the first time that game really rewards you for picking the sarcastic purple options. You and Flemeth just laugh and trade cute little quips, and it kind of feels like you're bonding with this weird witch lady. Not your mom, who is always disappointed in you. So since Flemmy likes you so much, she helps you get to a boat that'll take you to Kirkwall, just for one little favor we don't understand until later. But before we get to the rest of the game, the little favor that Flemeth asks for is she's trapped part of her soul into an amulet, and then you go on top of a mountain and you release the amulet, and then she's reborn. And this is a way for if the player kills Flemeth in the first game, it doesn't matter. She's alive anyway. And this tells everybody who's playing these Dragon Age games that Flemeth is going to be a big deal in this game and the game after. I don't know how I feel about this. I think Flemeth is such a cool character that it's nice seeing her go through all three games. But on the other hand, it completely takes away your player's choice. If you work so hard to kill her in the first game, and then you see her just be like, haha, just kidding, I have my soul in an amulet. That's not super fair. So anyway, okay, so the premise of the first act of this game is to get money to go the deep roads. Now, telling the player they have to pay to get into the deep roads turned a lot of people off, since the deep roads in Dragon Age Origins were long and mostly boring and full of combat. Nobody wanted to go back there, much less pay to go back there. And yet here we are. I think that if the deep roads didn't have such a bad rep, this would be a kind of a fun premise for the beginning of a game. You're poor, go do side quests, you have enough money to go on this crazy quest where you would get a bunch of gold. And as boring as the mandatory side quests sound, the first act is actually pretty action-packed. You find yourself accidentally bumping into future companions, and they're all given these grand entrances that range from bar fights to killing evil slave owners. Sure, they can all be boiled down to quick descriptions like crazy elf lady, or fun pirate friend, or emo elf man with big sword, or chest hair, but they all end up being pretty fleshed out. And the best part is, you're not going to like all of them. Cough, Anders. Cough, cough, cough. Even better, your friends probably don't like the same companions that you do like. And actually, I end up having, like, complex feelings about these different characters. Like, in the case of Meryl, I always found myself going back and forth with her. She makes some really bad, stupid choices with magic, but she's so nice and earnest and curious, and it's, like, so hard being mean to her. There's all kinds of personalities and points of view, and you find yourself making friends with the ones that you agree with, and then dragging the ones you don't like on missions so they're just gonna bitch and you can have a good laugh about it. All of your companions have their own, like, houses or bases, and you can go to that building and have a conversation with them, and it's very much encouraged. And all of the different conversations you have with them are super interesting. It's not just like exposition. It's also like, this is what I think about this thing. What do you think about it? This is how I tell jokes. How do you tell jokes? I want to flirt with you. Would you like to flirt with me? That sounds great. Let's flirt. It's really fun, and if they didn't have these interesting companions in Dragon Age 2, I don't think it would have been worth playing. The game also starts to sow the seeds of the next 2 acts, including tensions between the mages and normies, and the Kunari and the normies. The game really can't make up its mind about mages. Actually, I don't think the franchise knows what it's doing about them, honestly. Mages are painted as these oppressed people who want to have normal lives, but they're forced to either embrace tranquility or be stuck in a tower for the rest of their lives. And you can sympathize with that until the quest after quest after quest is about a mage who wants to blow shit up or raise the dead or kill innocent women. It's really difficult to feel sorry for mages in these games when a lot of the ones that you do see are crazy or evil or end up doing crazy evil shit down the line. And the game can't handle if you're a mage yourself because you're running around killing bandits for fun while everyone knows who you are. And yet you never get thrown in the circle. There's this passing comment about Hawk being in hiding from the circle in this act. But this, of course, is nonsense, since you can just run around in plain sight in front of Templars and even talk to Templars without so much as being thrown in the drunk tank. On the other hand, the Kunari stuff I liked a lot. They're this race of scary, horned devil dudes with their own religion and their own set of rules of how things work, and you know they're going to be trouble the moment you set your eyes on them. Their society boils down to everyone has a fixed role to play, and if someone steps out of line, they're dead. They get killed. This, as a normal person, sounds insane. And you're wondering how these guys can live in Kirkwall that's already got a bunch of problems happening with the mages. My favorite quest in this act involves escorting a mage Kunari out of the city so he can be, and I'm using air quotes right now, free. When you first meet him, he's chained up, he can't talk, he looks miserable. And you're like, duh, we're gonna free this dude. I'm a mage, he's gonna be free, this is gonna be rad. And he's obviously in pain, and it looks like he wants to live a normal life, or like as normal as a giant dude with horns can. So you try and take him out of the city, and you run into some Kunari who are convinced dude might have a demon in him because he hasn't seen his handler for like 5 seconds. This again plays into the hazy nature of mages in Dragon Age. At this point, you've met a lot of weird and messed up mages, so yeah, maybe this dude does have a demon in him. Do you even know how Kunari mages work? No, not really. So, is that a risk you're willing to take? But, on the other hand, the Kunari sound like paranoid crazy people because you or your sister is a mage, and neither of you are possessed by demons. As far as you know. If you choose to hand him over, the mage Kunari is relieved to follow the order, and it's because he's been taught this his whole life. Then just to drive home how weird the Kunari is, you have to defend yourself since hanging out with an unsupervised mage means you gotta die. If you decide to defend the mage, you have to kill all these Kunari, and then at the end of it, the mage Kunari tells you that he wants to die because that's what he's been taught. And it's really heartbreaking because this is his religion, this is his society, and he wants to follow the rules that he grew up with. So, as an outsider, this whole thing seems completely crazy and alien. And you as a player aren't sure how to handle the Kunari going forward. Are they all brainwashed? Is their way of life valid? And if not, what would happen if you tried to take on the Kunari themselves? It's a touchy subject, and even the game treats it that way. It's not like the mages who are oppressed people who might also be walking time bombs. The Kunari are big and scary and weird, and how will Hawk deal with that? It's not like she has one in her party to talk to about it. So, after all that, you finally get the money you need to go to the Deep Roads. But before you leave, you get more of this weird tension with your mother about bringing your brother or sister along. The foreshadowing here is really heavy-handed, and you can tell there's no choice you can make that'll leave everyone happy. That's not a bad thing, and it's kind of interesting, but if you're going to keep building tension with your mother, there should be a better payoff than what ends up happening. But we'll get to that. Okay, so the Deep Roads. They are mercifully short, and there's actually new enemies besides, blood bag shades. I like the bits with Sandal in it because he's so cute. And I like the slightly less heavy-handed foreshadowing of the dangers of Red Lyrium. We get to fight a dragon, a rock monster, and there's a lot of darkspawn. But overall, it's pretty short, it's fun, it's quick-paced, it's good. And as we all guessed, your sibling, who you might actually care about at this point, gets infected, and you can either leave him to die or send him off with the Grey Wardens. Either way, your sibling is out of your life forever. But it's better than having them hating you for the rest of their life because you didn't take them to the Deep Roads. So yeah, overall, I liked how this act is structured. It gives you a little taste of everything. Companions, future enemies, Kirkwall politics, and Hawk herself. I understand why the developers wanted to have the story be about the champion of this small community instead of having it span over cities and countries. It makes the stories feel more intimate. And it tells the story of a hometown hero who started as this weird, sarcastic mage and became the so-called champion of Kirkwall. The problem is that everything feels small. There's not a lot of customization as far as pretty outfits. The combat is pretty subpar. The caves get reused, and you'll see that even more in the next act. But the worst part is that Kirkwall itself doesn't seem to change. The game kind of feels like playing with action figures on a sturdy dollhouse that can't break. We'll see in later acts that even though Hawk practically burns the place down, nothing seems to change.